We need people in the country, but they have to come in legally. 2 weeks ago, I signed an executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. Many Democrats are fighting me on that. I hope you continue, because you'll never win another race. And it's just crazy. If you look at what happened with the boxing, if you look at what happened with the weightlifting numbers, where a record that hadn't been broken for 19 years got shattered. But, they put up an eighth of an ounce here, an eighth of an ounce there, and it's 218 pounds or whatever, a lot. And hadn't been broken in 19 years. And then a guy walks up who transitioned. He transitioned, and he knocked out that record by about 100 pounds. That will be a record not going to be broken again in a long. So we put a ban on it, and to protect women. I mean, the women, if you watch the Olympics, you had two transitioned people that were fighting in the women's boxing. They have women's boxing category. And if you saw that, it was brutal. What happened to the Italian woman was a really good boxer. After one punch, she said, no more. I've never been hit. It was a left. It was not even it was just a left jab. She got hit so hard, she said, I can't do it. They forced her to go out. No, go out again. You'll do it. Goes out again, gets hit again. No, that's it. She didn't want to die, and it's crazy. But the NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with Title IX. They have an obligation, a legal obligation, and we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting our citizens. We're going to protect.
That was Governor Janet Mills of Maine refusing to back down in the face of Trump's usual heavy-handed bullying tactics. This argument here grew out of Trump's insistence that Maine comply with his February 5th executive order barring trans athletes from competing in sports that don't comport with their gender at birth. Trump mentioned here that the NCAA immediately complied, and that's true. The NCAA changed its policy on February 6th, one day after Trump's executive order on February 5th. But Mills wasn't referencing NCAA policy. She was referencing following state and federal law. Now, a few points here. First, state law says the following. The Maine Principals Association, which governs high school sports in the state, said earlier this month that it would continue to allow transgender female athletes to compete. The association's executive director, Mike Burnham, said that it would follow the Maine Human Rights Act, which bars discrimination based on gender identity. So now let's look at federal law. Trump says, quote, "We are the federal law," which, first of all, is very Louis XIV of him. If I had $1 for every time Trump quoted a monarch or a dictator, I could probably start looking to retire. Now, it's important to note, despite Trump's insistence that l'état c'est moi, I am the state, that he is not, in fact, the sole arbiter of the law. But let's discuss where this stands with regard to him and where Governor Mills stands. Trump's interpretation here is that he signed an executive order and that by doing so, it's officially law. And his job is to enforce that law in the executive branch, and so he has the prerogative to withhold federal funds in the event that the law isn't being followed. Governor Mills' stance is that Trump's interpretation is incorrect and that he doesn't have the sole authority to unilaterally impound federal funds, which, by the way, were allocated by Congress, in which case the dispute would be resolved by a judge, hence Governor Mills' "I'll see you in court" statement. And look, as far as the issue of trans athletes is concerned, we know why Trump is focusing on this issue. It is red meat for the base. It's culture war. It's his comfort zone. But more importantly, it serves as a distraction. This is all to give Trump cover so that he can execute his far more dangerous plans of gutting the federal government and illegally installing his lackeys and sycophants across every agency and department. These are moves that have already faced backlash at the hands of federal judges and have even become a cause for consternation among Republican voters, as Trump's approval ratings have just flipped from net positive to net negative all within 1 month of taking office, with the principal cause being specifically his overreach and deputizing Elon Musk and his band of teenage minions to overreach. For example, here's Republican Representative Rich McCormick of Georgia's town hall from just yesterday. And keep in mind when you watch this, that this is a district that Trump won by 22 points.
You can go and yell all you want, but I can't understand 10 people, let alone 100 people at once.
Budget, not the president. And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
A lot of this stuff will be litigated. I don't think it's going to be litigated in court. You don't think I'm going to stand up for you? So if we're going to have a town hall, and I'm going to come and stand in front of you and take your questions and try to answer them as honestly as I can, then let's do that, okay? But if you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective town hall.
Does this look like a group of people who are satisfied with the fact that Trump has allowed Elon Musk and Doge to gut USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Department of Education? Does this look like a group of people who are satisfied that Trump handed off access to all of our personal data at the U.S. Treasury, at the IRS, at the Social Security Administration? Does this look like a group of people who support congressional Republicans refusing to act as a co-equal branch of government and have instead contracted every ounce of their autonomy over to Trump because they're just that chicken shit when it comes to standing up to the guy? The answer is clearly no, and that is why Trump is so hell-bent on waving the shiny issue of trans sports in front of everybody's faces. Not because it's some major issue in this country, it's not, and I'll get to that in just a moment, but he knows that people will bite, and that they'll be distracted by it, and that it'll take up oxygen so that we don't talk about the far less popular things that he's doing by gutting the rest of the federal government, including Medicaid and Social Security and education and veterans programs and cancer research and airline safety workers, just to name a few. Now do you see why he's so desperate to wave the trans sports thing in all of our faces? In fact, here's James Carville laying that point out on Fox News, of all places.
I see a lot of Democrats, do support men their rights to play women's sports. And you're not addressing those key issues that are...
It's the key issue what the High School Athletic Association decides who's eligible to play what sport is the key issue. We're going to continue to help people with health care, with Medicaid and Medicare, or the key issues that we're going to secure people's retirement security. The key issue is in this century. Under Democratic presidents, 50 million jobs have been created and 1 million jobs under Republicans. I think most Democrats that I know want to create jobs, create opportunity for people, and create opportunity for young people. I don't know of anybody that's sitting there worrying about who plays in the high school track meet.
To Carville's point, you know how many people we're actually talking about here on the issue of trans athletes? You know how many trans athletes are in the NCAA? I want everybody watching right now to think of a number of athletes, given that this is something that is clearly so important, the President of the United States is singularly focused on this. The NCAA has all of 10 trans athletes in its ranks. We're talking about 10 people. Trump wants to defund millions of students in Maine's education funding because of an issue that involves 10 people out of 350 million. This is a distraction, and Trump knows that, so he's relying on everybody focusing on that so that they're not focusing on his unpopular agenda that is dragging his poll numbers down. Let's not pretend that Trump doesn't know full well how to manipulate his audience, because he does. Our job right now is to keep our eye on the ball, recognize which fights to focus on. He'll deal with the governor in court, but in the meantime, we continue highlighting his assault on our privacy, on our healthcare, on our education, on our veterans, and so much more. Trump may try to present himself as a strongman, but what he's doing right now is only betraying his weakness. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.